Hello, everyone. I'm Jed Shlackman. I work as a holistic counselor as well as a hypnotherapist and an energy healer. For the current video, the topic I'm talking about is taking responsibility for our health or our illness or disease that might have manifested, and focusing on transcending shame and blame as we move forward in this process of healing. I'd like to present this from a kind of balanced, holistic perspective, not going to one extreme or another in how people relate to these concepts of health and illness and what's causing or supporting health or illness. For people that are suffering or dealing with different illnesses or diseases, there's the potential to either go in the direction of shaming or blaming oneself, or of blaming something external, something outside of you, for causing or making you to be ill. And if you're stuck in either of those focuses, it can interfere with your actual healing process, since for healing you want to be in a state of peace and harmony, a place where you're feeling love for yourself, love for life. So if you're feeling ashamed, then you're not authentically loving yourself, right? And if you're upset with others, if you're blaming external things, then you may feel some anger or resentment, which is counterproductive for your health. And you're also potentially giving away your power or agency, your ability to be resilient, to respond to stresses or challenges in your life, and to have confidence that you can face and get through those challenges and refresh your energy, reclaim your power, and restore your health. So we want to be conscious of our mindset about these different topics. It's actually very common in the world around us, including in the healthcare field, both mainstream and alternative healthcare providers promoting one polarized perspective or another that might actually be interfering with your health or your recovery. One example of this that's been in my mind recently is the concept promoted by the medical medium by Anthony William, that people who are experiencing chronic illness or are suffering from that should not be blaming themselves. They should not be saying to themselves, oh no, there's something I'm thinking or doing that's creating my illness. He's guiding people to focus on the idea that there are these external factors or things people aren't aware of that they will then be able to address that are causing their illness. In particular, things like pathogens, different viruses or bacteria, different contaminants and chemicals in the environment, things like heavy metals or radiation, some forms of pollution, and so on. So he's guiding people to recognize those factors as the predominant cause of their symptoms or conditions or illnesses, and discouraging them from focusing on the idea that there's something internal to themselves that's in some way fostering or facilitating their illness or disease. And from my point of view in the holistic health field, working for decades dealing with people who are working to recover from mental and physical conditions, there definitely are internal factors in our consciousness and our energy that are setting us up to manifest a very wide range of health issues. In a sense, our body reflects our psychology, so we're all being exposed to many different environmental stresses, to all kinds of microbes, to all kinds of pollution in the environment, in the food, air, and water, and not everyone's manifesting illness as a result of that. And those who are manifesting illnesses, it's not all the same illness. Different people are developing different conditions depending on their own inner state of consciousness, their own areas of vulnerability, their own unresolved emotional traumas, and so on. So there's a correspondence. You could think of it as the mind-body connection or metaphysical medicine that shows us how particular emotional and mental patterns will correlate very strongly with particular physical symptoms and diseases. So in that sense or context, to at least some degree, we are creating or facilitating our own health issues. We may have chosen from a soul level even to encounter a certain health issue to help us grow or evolve in some way, to provide some form of feedback to us about our lifestyle or about our subconscious patterns, our beliefs, our emotions that are part of who we've become, and which it might behoove us to reflect on so we can make positive changes within ourselves, within our mindset, and with our lifestyle, how we're living our life, our daily routine, what we're eating, when we're sleeping, who we're spending time with, how we're spending our time, our career, our relationships. Those are all things that we may need to look at, to explore, to see if there's things that are not serving us that we might need to change. And when we do make those changes, that may be part of our healing process and recovery from some illnesses. So we want to look at both sides of things, both the external and the internal, not neglect one or the other. Of course, the challenge with this, and the reason why someone like the medical medium might encourage one polarized view rather than another, would be that, let's suppose a person has a lot of self-worth issues, they're very self-critical, they already feel lots of shame about themselves, guilt about things in their life, they lack self-confidence, in general they're just not feeling good about themselves, and then the idea is presented to them that we create our reality, so to speak, that we're fostering our own health issues, even though that's from the subconscious level, that could compound that person's sense of shame or self-criticism. And so in that way, it wouldn't be beneficial for them at that point yet to have that awareness or understanding of their own role or responsibility in fostering their health issue. At that particular point or stage in their journey, for them it might be more useful to focus on the external, to see some external factor as causing or creating their problem, if that's something that they have some guidance about how to address it. So you know that your diet is contributing to your health challenges or chemicals in your environment, and you can make changes there. You can do things to improve those environmental factors. Then that's, at that point, easier for that person to focus on, to take those steps, than to confront their own emotional traumas, their own negative thoughts or beliefs about themselves, or feelings of disempowerment or being abused or neglected by people in their life. So it's often easier to first focus on the things that are easier for a person to address and deal with that before then moving on in the healing process to those deeper layers, to the emotional, mental, and spiritual factors. So it makes sense for some people to approach it that way, to be extra cautious, to put the blame for their health issues on something external, with the caveat that not be stuck in blame, to recognize there are external environmental things that can impact us and trigger or contribute to illness, whether it's pathogens or toxins or things of those natures, and to see that we can learn ways to address those, to help our body recover from those things. So in that sense, that can be empowering. Yet we also want to work on the other layers of ourself when we're ready, so that we're not carrying a whole bunch of emotional baggage that's weakening us, that's constricting our energy, that's actually enabling that vulnerability to the external environmental factors like toxins, like viruses, and so on. So it's helpful to see this more balanced, holistic, or whole picture of things, rather than to just focus narrowly on one aspect or layer versus another. So we don't want to get stuck in either shame, blaming ourselves, even if we are in some sense responsible or causal in terms of creating our distress or health issues. It's not productive to remain stuck in blame and shame about it. We want to forgive ourselves, to accept that this is part of human life. We go through these things. We may have been, in a sense, imprinted upon or programmed by our social environment to have that negative self-image or self-worth, and we're ready to outgrow that now, to tap into our spiritual essence, to see ourself in a different way. That can be part of the healing process. And we also don't want to get stuck in blame toward the external. We can see how external factors play a role. They are part of the causal mechanisms for illnesses or conditions we have. But to be upset and angry about those things, or to be overly fearful or afraid about being exposed to those things, ultimately becomes disempowering and impairs our ability to build our own strength and resilience, our own self-confidence, and our own connection to a higher power or spiritual source that will enable us to reclaim our power, to restore our self-worth, our self-love, our self-confidence. So moving past shame and blame, whether those are toward the internal or external causal factors, is a key step in the process of healing, of reclaiming our health and wholeness. And everyone is at different stages in this journey, in this path of healing or becoming more empowered, more whole. So wherever you're at, it's okay if you've been feeling shame or fear or anger, whatever it is about any health issues you've had and anything that you may perceive or recognize as playing a role in causing it. That's okay. You can continue forward. You can progress to another level in your process of healing where you're transcending the shame and blame, where you're actually taking constructive steps toward having a healthy lifestyle, toward mitigating any environmental hazards, and toward loving and valuing yourself and finding more peace with your life and more peace or acceptance in a sense toward the world around you, toward how other people are, with the understanding that we can't change the world and everyone around us. We can only start with self-improvement, with transforming ourselves and letting that have some ripple effect that benefits the community, the different social systems that we're a part of. I hope that this talk is giving you some things to reflect upon, some ideas to consider about how we approach healing, how we attribute causality in terms of different diseases or illnesses we may experience, so we can see things from a more holistic view. We can approach it in a more balanced way, where we're acknowledging both the internal and external factors that are in some sense co-creating illness from those different levels or layers, so we can take steps to address those factors, whatever levels may be involved, so we can address both the internal and external, which brings us a greater potential for healing, for more fully recovering from any health challenges. For those who are interested in more resources, more information in regards to holistic health, I invite you to visit my website, phinsights.com, phinsights.com. And for now, I wish everyone a wonderful day. Namaste.